River Phoenix was only 23 when he died because of a drug overdose in Viper Room nightclub in Hollywood. At that time, he was acknowledged as the most brilliant actor of his generation. His death has a huge impact, not only his brother Joaquin Phoenix, who was with him in his final moments, his family and his loved ones, but it also drastically affected the movie industry and Hollywood. One person whose life changed dramatically was Ethan Hawke. Hawke's first movie was Explorers, where he acted alongside River Phoenix, and they became close friends from that point on. How Hawke grieved for the death of Phoenix has changed the course of his career and life. Ethan Hawke's parents divorced when he was 4 years old. He was mostly raised by his mother, who had a huge intellectual, musical, and artistic influence on Hawke. Her mom was the one who gave Ethan Laurence Olivier's book on acting for his 16th birthday. Hawke's parents fell in love in high school and were in the university when they separated. Seeing his parents fail in marriage, he decided never to divorce to avoid disappointing his future kids. Although he mostly aspired to be a writer during his teenage years, he started acting in plays when he was 12. His first movie was Explorers with River Phoenix at the age of 14.
Would you like to continue your career as an actor? You think it's there?
I don't know if it's going to be there, but I'd like to do it. I would. I'd like to continue if I can. Depends on what comes up and what I can do as I get older. I don't know,
Even though he had huge expectations about this movie, Explorers bombed in the box office and he stopped acting. He even said, "I will never recommend that a kid act." Despite this, he returned to acting just 4 years later because he wasn't satisfied with university life. That movie was Dead Poets Society, and it made him famous worldwide. That's how I learned about Carpe Diem as a kid.
The Latin term for that sentiment is carpe diem. Now, who knows what that means? Carpe diem. That's to seize the day. Very good, Mr. Meeks. Meeks. Another unusual name.
It's curious how the movies we watch as children leave the biggest imprint on our memories. After that, he never quit acting.
What do you love? And if you get close to what you love, who you are is revealed to you and it expands. For me, it was really easy. I did my first professional play. I was 12 years old. I was in a play called St. Joan by George Bernard Shaw at the McCarter Theater. And boom, I was in love.
Moreover, since then, there hasn't been a time when his face wasn't recognizable anywhere in the world. Just as he was beginning to enjoy fame, recognition, and wealth in his early 20s, the death of his close friend River Phoenix occurred. It was a shocking and terrible turning point for Hawke. He didn't just lose one of his best friends, he also saw what fame could do to a person, how Hollywood can eat you alive. Mourning his friend had a lifelong impact on Hawke.
And when I was in my 20s, I was so... First of all, River had just died. And that was very real for me. So the idea of being a casualty of child acting was not like an idea. It was rooted in a friendship and a loss. And I really wanted to survive.
First of all, he never lived in LA. He wanted to stay far away from this chaotic lifestyle. Furthermore, he began focusing on more serious, intellectual films. He has always been afraid of being labeled as pretentious, so he felt the need to build a deeper, more intellectual career for himself. This ambition was clearly demonstrated in the 1994 movie Reality Bites.
You see, lady, this is all we need. A couple of smokes, a cup of coffee, and a little bit of conversation. You and me and $5.
You got it.
In this Ben Stiller's directorial debut, the story of unemployed, recently graduated university students with dreams that toss to a wall is told so well that it became a poster movie for Generation X.
Besides, everyone dies all by himself.
Ethan Hawke's role as melancholic Troy, who plays guitar, studies philosophy, questions life's meaning as an emotional, sensitive but clever boy, was like all he was in real life.
You know, that character was another aspect of me, you know? I mean, pretentious and self-serious and full of himself and wildly insecure. And I don't know, it was guys I knew, guys I wanted to be, guys I didn't like. If you really do it right, it doesn't matter who you're playing, you really get immersed in their point of view. I love Troy, you know?
I would fall in love with Troy in a second today, to be honest. While he was turning into a very well-played representation of youth of that day, he chose scripts that were sophisticated.
There's no secret handshake. There's an IQ prerequisite, but there's no secret handshake.
He met his future wife Uma Thurman, who was a sensationally famous and well-respected actress at that time, when they co-starred in Garaga in 1997. Hawk even today defines Garaga as one of his best roles, despite its restricted recognition. The couple got married in 1998. It was finally complete for Hawk. He had positioned himself as an actor of complicated and smart characters, of profound scripts. He also had a family of himself with a beautiful, talented and charming wife and 2 cute kids. But it could only be a sweet dream of a 28-year-old naive young man. In 2003, rumors surfaced suggesting that Hawk was cheating on Uma Thurman with their nanny. The couple divorced a few years later. Even though Hawk married to the nanny and he has been in love with her ever since, the divorce shook his own belief system. He had grown up with the conviction that he wouldn't be the father of a broken home, that his love story would last forever. But now, he realized that life is not a place of such big promises.
I thought that being an adult was going to be easier than it is. It's really, I think I thought it was going to work like this. You know, you work hard, you tell the truth, your aim is true, and you'll slowly build and get better and better and better. And life doesn't work on some slow, gradual ascent where every decision makes sense. You know, it was turning into much more of a slog where sometimes up, sometimes down, sometimes twisted. Sometimes what you thought was a failure turned into success. Sometimes what you thought was a success turned into a failure.
Hawk had to grieve once again, this time for his marriage. This was the second marriage he had to mourn after his parents. But at least this time, he had another outlet for his suffering besides acting. His childhood dream, writing. He started writing movie scripts with the Before trilogy, which had a profound impact on Hawk's career. The first film in the trilogy, Before Sunrise, premiered in 1995 and became an ode to the most romantic beginning of a promising love, which is totally inaccurate if you ask me. For this film, Hawk and his co-star Julie Delpy contributed to the script alongside director Richard Linklater, encouraging Hawk to pursue other creative endeavors beyond acting.
Whenever you feel like too much of a professional, I get a little sleepy, you know, and I love doing new things and being curious.
His first novel, The Hottest State, was published in 1996. His first movie he directed, Chelsea Walls, premiered in 2003. He even wrote a novel called A Bright Ray of Darkness, in which he tells the story of a young actor who cheated on his wife and was at the brink of a divorce. I wonder who could have inspired that story.
But what happens is, as an actor, we're only as good as our opportunities. It's very difficult to find exciting opportunities.
Ethan Hawke wasn't waiting for good scripts to come his way anymore. He was now creating his own projects, writing, directing and producing theater plays. He was so successful, famous and wealthy that you might think he could finally relax. Right? No, wrong. Despite having acted in countless plays, he developed stage fright at 40. At 40, after so many years.
You know, here I was turning 40, and I'd always been the youngest at everything. You know, my self-image was that of a young person. You know, when Dead Poets Society came out, I was 18. I was the youngest client at my agency. Right. You know what I mean? I was always the youngest. Oh, he made his Broadway debut at 21. Oh, he wrote a book at 24. I was just a kid, always, and that was my... And all of a sudden, that wasn't true anymore. And I felt like, well, I wasn't allowed to be promising anymore. It was time to deliver.
He was not confident as he used to be before taking the stage. His voice and hands were shaking. What was happening to him, for God's sake?
So often it's our anxiety that trips us up from being our best self.
a great bulk of my life is a war with my nervous system. You know, and I think a lot of people feel that way.
He couldn't find the answer until he met pianist Seymour Bernstein. Bernstein reassured him, saying, "Of course you'd be anxious. You're responsible for your audience." And that was the seed for his first documentary, Seymour, an introduction. Now he had to mourn the loss of his youth and create another artistic piece.
You have to hopefully create a little bit of balance of maintaining that youthful hubris, or else you won't get anything done.
According to researchers, a successful mourning process leads people to find ways to turn the light on in the world again. When successful, mourning leads people to feel deeply connected to deceased loved ones, while also able to imagine a satisfying future without them. After mourning successfully, the person re-engages in daily life, reconnects to others, and obtains hope for a future with potential for joy and satisfaction.
River is still with me somewhere. He visits me in dreams. I see him when I watch Joaquin work. I see him when I see young actors inspired by my own private Idaho. This idea that life has this beginning, middle, and end, I don't know if that's true.
Whenever Ethan Hawke suffered, he returned to creating. He acted, he wrote, and directed. He had to challenge his own beliefs and transform, shedding his skin in the process. He got lost so many times in his career that finding his way back became his signature. And he did it thanks to his potent mourning processes every time he lost someone or something he held dear.
It's not up to you to decide whether your work is good or bad. If you think making a documentary is valuable, if you think writing a book is valuable, if you think making a movie is valuable, if you think somebody telling the truth as they know it is valuable, well, then it's valuable for you.
He learned that he didn't need to chase fame. He needed to master his craft and remain sincere. He learned he didn't need to stay married to the mother of his children to be a good father. He could just be himself, with all his complexities, like the characters he portrayed. He didn't need to have all the answers.
You can't win pretending to be somebody else. As much as you might like somebody else.
To avoid being pretentious, all he had to do was stop pretending. That's it.